I am not going to be perfect, and that perfection isn't the goal. The goal is just for me to live a soft life, and understanding that soft doesn't mean perfect. Soft doesn't mean no mistakes. Soft doesn't mean that you're never going to be angry. And soft doesn't mean that you know exactly what you want. Because in all honesty, we are always growing. We are always evolving. Our goals change. Our perspectives change. Our circumstances change. And we may think that we want this. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges, but what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how it's going to take time. So, let's get started. All right, y'all. Quick little weekly check-in. I've made it to the first week of professional development. And if you're a teacher, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, I'm grateful for that, and I'm really just excited to go back to work. I'm excited to see my students again, teach Spanish for the first time, and really just teach something that I'm genuinely passionate about. I used to teach English at one point, and I was very passionate about that too, but this just has a different level to it. I get to bring my cultural background and my lived experiences and share them with the kids, and so I'm really, really excited about that. If you do not know, Spanish is my first language, so just sharing that with the kids and teaching them and knowing that they're excited about it is something that I'm really, really grateful for, and I'm building my own curriculum, so I'm very excited to share that and just see how my creativity comes to life, so I'm very grateful for that. But let's talk about how we got to today's topic for this episode, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's Sunday night, it's 6 o'clock, and I am a procrastinator. Well, number one. And number two, I've been really busy just trying to pour my all into work and my curriculum and just bringing that creativity to life. And so this morning when I was thinking about like, what am I going to do? Am I going to push an episode back or whatever the case may be? I just kept having this thought in my head of like, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. And the last couple of days, I've really been reflecting on just my journey and my growth as a person and how much I have changed in a couple of years. And although it sounds like it was a short period of time, it really did take a lot of time and a lot of effort for me to be able to be the person that I am right now. And I am just super grateful and super proud of the growth that I have seen and the growth that I have really put my all into to be able to get to where I am today. And I think the thing about this journey and like really trying to leave the hood behind and go for a soft life is that you don't see the growth in yourself until one day you just lift your head up and realize like, wow, I really am so far along from where I used to be at. And getting to the point where you're like in the middle, where you've seen where you were and you see where you still have to go, and just being appreciative of where you are. I'm very grateful for where I'm at right now. This is definitely not my dream life, but I'm definitely a lot closer to it than where I used to be. And I'm also just grateful to be so far removed from who I used to be. So let's just jump a little bit more into how we got here. So, a little backstory, and I'm going to make this as brief as possible, but it is important. 3 years ago, I was graduating from college, and I was going to school during the pandemic, during the time where all the police brutality was being televised. We were doing classes remote. I don't learn that way, so I was already extremely miserable. I genuinely like school, so to not be in class was already a struggle, but having all these other things going on, and then on top of that, I was in a very toxic, borderline abusive, if not abusive, relationship, and I was just a completely different person, and I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I was so mentally unstable. I was extremely depressed, and to put it quite plainly, trigger warning, I just really wanted to disappear. There was no version of me that you see now back then, I wasn't thinking about a soft life. I wasn't thinking about who I was going to be. I was literally just trying to make it through the day, barest of bare minimum. And just seeing how I used to operate, and I really used to just operate in anger and frustration and resentment, and that just ruled my entire world. And there were points in my life where I tried to step out of that. Like, for example, in my relationship, I really tried to be a different version of myself, a healthier and better version of myself. But when you grow up in such unhealthy circumstances, there are a lot of experiences that shape you to become the person that you are. And you do have options, right? You're not stuck with that version of yourself forever. You have options. You have the ability to change, but that really starts with you understanding and realizing that you are a version of yourself that you do not like. And that's where I was at. I was a complete version of myself that I did not like. I did not have any sort of concept of self-love of any kind, because I knew that this wasn't it. This wasn't who I wanted to be. I knew that this person who only felt anger and frustration never really felt any other emotions, that I didn't want to be that way. And there was this small whisper in my mind from time to time that's like, you don't want to be like this. You don't have to be like this. This is not who you were meant to be. This is not who you were created to be. But because I was so rooted in anger, and because I was just so rooted in that trauma and in such chaos and dysfunction, that little whisper at the time had zero chance of ever really getting any louder. And so fast forward to where I'm at now, and just being able to see that I don't operate out of anger and frustration anymore. But that doesn't mean I'm not perfect, right? I still have steps and things that I need to do to become the person that I want to be. But just seeing how much I've grown, and I don't operate out of anger and frustration. I don't engage in toxic relationships. I don't miss an opportunity to be grateful for something. And just getting to where I'm at now, I'm super, super grateful for that. And I don't want to spend the entire episode just talking about like my personal experiences and stuff like that. I really want to get to a point where I can talk to you about how you can make that shift. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I really want to give you a picture of who I used to be. I used to be extremely aggressive. And if I didn't show it externally, that is how I felt internally. I was extremely aggressive. I only felt anger. It was very hard for me to feel anything. It was very hard for me to accept love from anyone, to be any version of soft that there was. That did not exist at the time. And it was because I was drowning in trauma, and I was drowning in abuse, and I was drowning in all of these feelings of depression, that I couldn't even express anything positive. And it was like I went to school and I went to work and I had a smile on my face and it looked like I was perfectly fine, but behind that smile I was completely broken. And it wasn't until I hit the rockiest of rock bottoms in 2023-ish where it's like, okay, we know we don't like this version of ourselves, and we haven't liked this version of ourselves for so long, and it's time to start making some sort of change, because we can't live like this every single day. We can't be in this environment mentally, right? Because it's one thing to be in a physical environment, but I was living in a mental environment that was just plagued by anger, frustration, abuse, trauma, and we can't keep living like this. And to put it quite plainly, trigger warning, I just did not even want to be here anymore. All I wanted was for this to be over. And there was no version of me that was really putting my all in God. If I'm being completely honest, I rejected God at the time for a few years, and there was just no light in me at all. It might have looked that way. It might have appeared that way to people. I did a really good job of masking my experiences and my emotions, but internally, like in reality, there was no light at all. And so just moving to a point now where it's 2025, I just turned 25, and seeing how I'm starting to handle certain experiences is what showed me how much I have changed. And for example, I've talked about this a few times on the podcast, but back in March, I was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, and it's a serious medical condition. There is no cure for it, but seeing how I was able to handle that really showed how much I have grown. If I had found out that I had polycystic kidney disease 3 years ago, I don't know if I would still be here, if I'm going to be completely honest, because that's how much I was already struggling. That's how much I was already drowning in pain. And then to hear something like, you could possibly die a lot younger than you think because of a medical condition, and you can't control it, there's not really much you can do about it. I think that probably would have just been the cherry on top. But finding out now in 2025, and I have faith in God, and I have a sense of just like, there's a reason for why we go through things, and I may not know the reason, and I don't need an explanation for that. I was able to take that experience, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't hard. Like, I just want to make that extremely clear. That doesn't mean that my experience wasn't difficult. That doesn't mean that I didn't cry. That doesn't mean that I wasn't depressed. I went through all of the motions, but at the end of the day, I still had faith in God, and I didn't just give up on everything, and I didn't just say, forget God. I didn't just say, forget all of this. There's no point in doing any of this stuff. There's no point in doing the podcast. There's no point in pursuing the life that I want to have, because I could die a lot sooner than I thought that I would. But that was the first experience that I think that really opened my eyes to how I handle situations, and comparing that to how I used to handle situations. I think another thing too is really getting to a point where I can express my gratitude and appreciation towards others. It is still something that is difficult for me. It is something that is still very challenging for me to do, just open up with others and tell them how much I appreciate them, or how they make me feel, or how their presence has really affected me. And so being able to deliver those messages through cards or through text messages, really just through writing, so that I don't have to say it and be awkward when we're face to face and I'm telling them and they have an emotional reaction. Just getting to a point where I can actually get those feelings out and express them. I'm really proud of myself for that, because they say that the only time that you really know how much somebody cares about you is at your funeral, and you're not even there. And I don't want it to be that I go to somebody's funeral and that is the first time that I'm ever saying these things, and I wish I had said them to that person. I don't want to live that kind of life, and I also don't want that for myself. And so just opening up and hearing the things that people have to say about me, and I'm still working on how I receive that, but just getting to a point where I can receive it in the first place is such growth to me. And when you think about this, and as you listen to this episode, I really want you to think about, what does growth look like to you? Because it was hard for me to script this episode, to be honest, which is why there isn't much of a script to begin with, because growth is so personal, success is so personal, and it looks different for everyone. And for me, I know that I've grown because I have a lot more faith in God. The fact that I'm even rooted in religion in the first place, and or rooted in a relationship with Jesus in the first place, and going to church on a consistent basis, like, that is huge for me, especially considering that I was denying God. It's not that I didn't believe in God. It's not that I was atheist or anything like that. I still always knew that there was something higher, and I still kind of believed in God in the back of my mind, but I was just so resentful and so angry that it's just like, well, how can you possibly be so good if this is the life experience that I had? But getting to a point now where it's like, I enjoy going to church and I look forward to it. It's probably the best part of my week, and then I have a relationship with God. That is something that is growth for me. Something that is growth for me is my ability to be able to communicate to people how they make me feel, how I appreciate them, and receiving that in return. Growth for me is not always operating in anger and frustration. I am not going to lie. I used to be very, very quick to anger. Something as simple as not being able to find the remote, a response that was not warranted came from me. And it was just like, it's not that deep. But because I was so angry and I never really let out my anger and frustration, it wasn't until moments where I lost the remote, or I dropped something on the floor, or God forbid I sneezed 3 times, where I had these explosive reactions. So growth for me is not having these explosive reactions anymore, or seeing something for what it is and having the option to crash out. Because I can't even lie to you, I was a certified crash out. But having the option to crash out and still choosing to say, nah, never mind, forget it, because nobody has time for all of that. That is like my new thing. Like, nobody has time for this, nobody has time for that, So I really want you to just think about, like, what does growth look like for you on this personal journey as you continue to listen to this episode, because it takes time. And You really have to sit down and give yourself the time to even think about how much you have grown. You won't know how much you've grown unless you've given yourself the opportunity. We're always so busy with our jobs, or maybe you have kids, or maybe you're married, or whatever the case may be. You're always so busy with life itself that you don't get the opportunity to see how much you've grown. You don't get the opportunity to give yourself your flowers. You don't get the opportunity to really think about, where do I want to go next? I feel like people always try to think of the end goal of like, this is where I want to be, but you're not stopping to think about where you are right now and what you need to do next. What you think you need to do next to get to your end goal may not be what you actually need to do, but because you didn't give yourself the time to really reflect on where you are and where you need to go next, you just keep making these moves, not really knowing. And so I just wanted to really address that and just really talk about how your growth is so personal and just give you a little bit of background of like where I was and where I'm at now, because like I love doing this podcast. I really do. But even when I first started this podcast, my intentions were always good. But I feel like the first couple of episodes, I was still so rooted in anger that I feel like my episodes may come across that way. A lot of people don't see that or don't feel that. And maybe it's just because I knew where my heart posture was at the time, so I am aware of it. But just even seeing how I've made shifts in the way that I produce this podcast and shifts in the way that I provide information and feedback for people in this podcast has also just been an illustration for the growth that I've had since I've started this podcast. I want to say in like 2023-ish into where I'm at now. And so I am just really grateful, and I want you to take a moment to really sit down and just reflect. If you can journal it out, that's even better. And pen to paper, y'all. Y'all love to use the notes app, but there is something about putting pen to paper that just hits different. I really want you to take the opportunity to just think about how you have changed. And if you feel like you haven't, give yourself some time to really think about it. Don't just give yourself 5 minutes and call it a day. Really give yourself the time to really reflect on it. And the things that you think are small changes that aren't a big deal are probably big factors in who you are today. Me being able to choose whether or not I'm going to crash out may seem like a joke, and it may seem like a small thing to other people, but for me, that is a big deal. As somebody who was legitimately a certified crash out, that is a big deal for me, and that shapes a lot of how I'm able to get to this point in my life where I can now accept other things, because I'm not crashing out about every little thing, and because I'm not angry about every little thing. There is joy that I can start to feel. There's other emotions besides anger that I can start to feel, because I get to make the choice of, do I want to be angry and do I want to let this ruin my day, or do I just want to be like whatever and just be unbothered by it and go about my business. As you go through this journey, you're gonna feel like, because you're not perfect, or because you are not exactly where you want to be, and because you still make mistakes, you're gonna feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, and you're gonna try and belittle your growth. But honestly, like, getting to a soft life doesn't mean that you aren't going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that things won't bother you, that they won't make you angry, that you won't respond to them. You might have a little light crash out here and there. That doesn't mean that that's the case. What it really means is like, you have a choice. And I think that that's something we don't really think about. We're so rooted in our emotions, and we let our emotions run our lives, that we don't realize we have a choice in how we operate in this world. We have a choice in how we operate in this life. And for me, I have been making the choice to not crash out about every single thing. And I have also given myself the opportunity to accept that I am not going to be perfect, and that perfection isn't the goal. The goal is just for me to live a soft life, and understanding that soft doesn't mean perfect. Soft doesn't mean no mistakes. Soft doesn't mean that you're never going to be angry. And soft doesn't mean that you know exactly what you want. Because in all honesty, we are always growing. We are always evolving. Our goals change. Our perspectives change. Our circumstances change. And we may think that we want this. We may think that we want this kind of house, and that's a quote unquote soft life to us. But as we get older and as we build relationships and whatever the case may be, we start to realize like, oh, maybe I don't want this kind of house. Maybe I want this kind of house instead, or maybe I'm happy with this instead. And so I really want you to just understand that like your soft life doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes, and that your growth doesn't mean that you're never gonna see a tiny little piece of who you once were. I think that that's always gonna be in the back of your mind, and I don't want it to be something that haunts you or something that rules you and makes you feel like you didn't grow at all. I think there's always going to be a little piece of you from the past that shows up in your presence. But you get to decide like how much of that rules your world. I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense. But for example, and I keep coming back to this because it's so true, but with me being a certified crash out and crashing about everything and cussing people out about every single thing, sometimes rightfully so, other times like you could have just let that go. But there might be a time in the future where I have the opportunity to crash out, and I might even picture exactly what that crash out is going to look like. And I might feel it in my bones, that because anger has a physiological response. Okay. You can feel that in your body. I might feel that, but I have the choice to not respond. And I think that that's the soft part about it. I made the choice not to respond, but I still felt angry. I still felt ready to crash out. I was prepared. I felt it in my body. And that's the part of the past that is showing up. But the soft version of myself, the part of myself that has shown growth, chose not to operate in that. And I think that as we continue to do this walk on our soft life journey, we have to understand that your emotions play a huge part in how your reality comes out to play. So if you're constantly letting yourself be ruled by your emotions and you're letting your emotions do all of the work and then you think about it later, that affects what kind of life you're going to have. Sometimes it might be difficult to think in the moment depending on the situation, but really start training yourself in certain situations to think about it before you actually do something. There are some things that are just, what's the word I'm looking for? Reflexes. There are some things that are just reflexes that you just happen to do without even thinking about it. But if there's an opportunity for you to think, if you are already planning how you're about to crash out on somebody or the speech you're about to give somebody when you cuss them out, give yourself the opportunity to also think about the possibility of just saying like, yeah, I want to do this, but I'm not going to let my emotions rule me, and so I'm going to do this instead. Let's talk about being grateful for being in the middle. I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm so far removed from who I used to be, but I'm also still far from who I want to be, where I'm like nice and in the middle. I get to see what is in the rear view. It's still close enough where I can still kind of see it, but it's not ruling my life. But I'm also not close enough to who I want to be and to my future that I feel like I'm at my quote unquote end goal. And I think the other thing too about this journey is like, what exactly does that look like? And does the goalpost shift from time to time? For some people it might. For me it might. But I don't know. And I think that that's another thing that's important to think about. Is like your end goal and your goalpost might shift from time to time, and not getting caught up in that, because if you're always so worried about just the end goal and getting to that, like what happens with the rest of your life once you've gotten there? What do you do next? But I just want to talk about like being grateful for where you are. You may not be living in your dream home. You may not be driving your dream car. You may not be working your dream job. You may not be going to your dream school, but just seeing where you've come from, or just seeing how you operate, right? It doesn't even have to be these physical things. You may not be operating as your dream self. There may be some things that are still holding you back, but the fact that you have gotten to this point where you're not responding to things the way you used to, and you see how you could respond to things if you became that dream version of yourself, that is what's going to help you get to where you want to go. This nice middle ground is building the foundation for who I'm going to be in the future. And the journey is difficult. The journey is not linear, and it takes a lot of time, but just understanding that when you get to a point where you're in the middle and you can give yourself the opportunity to just really see how you've grown and to acknowledge that, gives you the foundation for you to really take flight and get to where you want to be. That first couple of years, the last 3 years of my life, was really just me demolishing everything that was there. Like, let's think about it as like an old school building, right? I demolished the old school and I took my time with it. It wasn't a quick demolish. I really had to just make sure that everything was gone and that I wasn't keeping anything that would be harmful to the new building that was coming. And now I'm at the middle where I'm planning out the renovations and I'm thinking about, what do I want this new school to look like? How do I want this new school to operate? What are things from the old school that I'm not bringing into this new school anymore? And then really just taking my time here so that I can build the dream school that I've always wanted to have, build the dream school that I've always wanted to be in. So taking that time to really be grateful for where you're at will really set the foundation for where you end up going. Because if you can't be grateful for where you are in the middle right now, why would you get more? Why would you think that you deserve any more? If you can't be appreciative for the little that you have right now, why would you have anything greater than this? You can't even handle the little that you have right now. And so I have really been spending the last couple of days just being appreciative of the fact that, like, I have grown so much as a person, and just seeing where I still need to go. It can make you emotional, right? Especially like depending on the things that you have been through or the things that you've seen, etc. It can really make you emotional. Just sit with that, honestly. Sit with those emotions, sit with those feelings, because this journey is not easy. And everybody's life is different. You may not have gone through the things that I have gone through. I may not have gone through the things that you have gone through, but everybody's journey is so personal, it's so individual, and growth for you may be different than growth for me. Your experiences are different from me. Your end goal or your soft life looks different from mine. But just really understanding where you are on your journey and being grateful for where you are on your journey will allow you to get to where you want to be. And with that comes being grateful for the challenging times that come around in your life. And that is also where I have seen a lot of growth. It's just like, there was a point in time where I was just so angry about every majorly bad thing that had happened to me, or things that I just feel like shouldn't have happened to me, from the abandonment of my parents, from being homeless, from some experiences that I just choose not to talk about on camera. And it really just ruled my entire life. And now I've gotten to a point where it's just like, if it wasn't for the abandonment of my parents, like, who would I be, really? Like, that set the foundation for me to be this person that is ambitious and that works hard and that has these goals. And I wouldn't be a generational pattern breaker without this rough start. Without me being homeless, I wouldn't have gotten to the realization that I want to help other people who are trying to have a soft life, who are trying to get out of the hood, who are trying to get out of instability. There would probably be no podcast without that experience of me being homeless. And it's just like, I've gotten to a point where it's like, I know that everything serves a purpose, and I don't need to know how or why those things serve a purpose or why I've gone through those things, but just understanding, like, it's building character, or it's setting the foundation for the story that I get to tell in the end, where God gets the glory for everything over my life. Me finding out that I had polycystic kidney disease, I remember just crying and just being like, I get it. Like, all the hard things that I go through are for a reason, and I get that this will be something I can give a testimony about in the future. But right now, this is so difficult and this is so challenging. But just understanding and even saying that in a moment is just such growth for me. And I'm just very grateful that I could be at a point where I'm not ruled by anger. I'm not ruled by frustration and my emotions. And I'm at a point now where I can really start expressing my light and my love into this world, and being the person that God really created me to be, and being the person that I saw myself as a kid before all these crazy things started happening in my life. And so I'm just really grateful for where I'm at now, and to be able to see it now is another thing, because a lot of people see your growth before you get the opportunity to see it, because you live this life every single day and you don't really see how you've changed every single day. But when you get to a point where you can see how much you've changed, a lot of time has passed by and a lot of growth has happened. I always like to think about working out in the gym. It takes X amount of weeks before there's actually a shift that starts happening in your body. And then a few weeks after that, other people start to see your weight loss or your weight gain, whatever journey you're on. And then a few weeks after that, you finally see it. And just understanding how that works. It's always the people externally who can see it first, because they don't live in your shoes, they don't live in your skin, they don't walk on that journey every single day. And then when you get to the point where you can finally see it, it's like, oh snap, I didn't even realize that I looked like that. I didn't even realize that I looked this good or whatever. And so getting to a point where you can do that emotionally and just be like, oh wow, I didn't realize how much I've grown as a person, can really set the foundation for where you go next, and can really determine how far away are you from your dream life? How far away are you from the soft life that you're trying to achieve? It may not be as far as you think. All right, y'all, let's talk about some tips for reminding yourself of where you are in your journey and just helping you get through your journey, right? Because we say soft life, but that doesn't mean that the journey is soft. If anything, that means that the journey is extremely difficult, but you have to go through the difficult things to be able to get to where you want to be. And so here are just some tips, or more so reminders, for you as you go about this journey. The first one is that soft doesn't mean easy, it means intentional. And that's what I was talking about earlier, right? There are going to be opportunities where you want to crash out. There are going to be opportunities where you could easily resort back to the person that you used to be, but you have to be intentional about who you want to be, where you want to go, and what you want your life to look like. And you have to make the choices for yourself to decide, are you going to continue to go forward, or are you going to start taking a couple of steps back? Are you going to do the lean back, or what are we doing here? And really understanding that you have a choice in where you go next will set you free from a lot of things. It really will. And it's difficult. It's difficult to make those choices, and it's difficult to even comprehend that you have a choice in the beginning. But just keep telling yourself that, I have a choice. At the end of the day, I can decide what steps I could take. I can decide how I respond to things, and that will set you free from a lot of things that are holding you back. The next tip for you is you are not behind, you are building. That school example that I was telling you about earlier was perfect. It was straight off the dome. But you are not behind in the process. You had to do demolitions first before you could even start building something new to get to the dream school, the dream house, whatever that you wanted to get to. And so right now you're in the building process. You did the demolition and you took your time with the demolition. So that means that there aren't going to be things from your old building that plague and affect your new building. So taking your time with that demolition really sets the foundation for what kind of future school, future house you have next. And so don't feel like because it took you so long to get to this point now that you are behind. If anything, that means that you are setting such an amazing foundation for who you end up being in the future. Tip number 3, celebrate your small wins. Give yourself your flowers. I don't know how many times I've said that on this podcast, but you really have to acknowledge your growth and where you've been and where you're going. And that can be very challenging. Like I mentioned, it can be very difficult because you don't see it every single day and you live this life every single day. It might just feel like another day, another dollar, whatever. But really take the opportunity to just think about it. Maybe you do this every 3 months. Maybe you do this every 6 months of just where did I start at the beginning of this timeline and where am I at now and how much have I grown? And even if it's just one thing, this is the one thing that I have grown in. Celebrate that. Even if you feel like you didn't grow that much in it, still celebrate that, because chances are you're probably cutting yourself short. Let's just be real. A lot of people tend to be their most judgmental and most hardest critic ever. So even if you feel like it's a small change and you didn't really change that much, go on ahead and celebrate yourself anyways, because I'm willing to bet that because you think it's small doesn't mean that that's reality. I'm willing to bet that other people who know you will be like, no, you've grown so much and blah, blah, blah. Tip number 4 is that your healing doesn't have to be visible to others. This journey is all about you. This journey isn't about anybody else. Even if you want to be a parent, even if you want to be a spouse to somebody else, and you might have that at the forefront. I know for me, I want to be a parent and I want to be a spouse, and I know that I cannot do that until I heal internally. Even though I want to heal for them, these future people that we're talking about, I also know that I want to heal for me too. I cannot do this for anybody else because it will mean nothing. They are not guaranteed. we don't know what could happen to them tomorrow. And so just understanding that your growth doesn't need to be visible to anybody. You don't have to validate it. It's not for anybody else. It is just for you. You are the only person that walks in your shoes every single day. You are the only person that lives your experiences, that walks in your shoes every day. And so you cannot do this for others. You can only do this for yourself. You cannot do this for the person you want to marry. You cannot do this for the kids that you want to have. You cannot do this because you think that you should do it for others, for your mom, your dad, whoever. You have to do it for yourself, and it doesn't have to be visible to them. They don't need to know about every little change that you're trying to make into your life. They don't need to know about every little piece of growth that you have. This is for you. Be quote unquote selfish with it. You don't need to tell anybody anything if you don't want to. Tip number 5, softness is strength in disguise. Like I mentioned for the billionth time, I used to be a certified crash out, and I used to really think that I was the ish because I was a certified crash out. And it's just like anybody try me, I got something for that. And now that I'm older and now that I'm getting to a point where it's like I know that that's not who I want to be, it's just like, like it really isn't a look, number one, and number two, it's just like it takes a lot of strength to know that you could crash out on somebody and not do it. And that is like the most underrated thing, right? People don't understand that, like, when situations come up where you could easily check somebody, cuss somebody out, crash out, whatever, and you choose not to, and you choose the soft route to be unbothered, whatever, like that is the most strength that you can ever have. It's easy to let your emotions rule you. It's easy to fall for things that you shouldn't fall for, but to really think about it and take the soft route and the unbothered route instead, like that's true strength. Number 6, you won't always notice your own growth, but others will. Keep that in mind. Like I mentioned, you walk this life every single day, so it's hard for you to be able to see for yourself how much you've grown, but other people will see it. And when they point it out to you, really take the time to think about it. Don't just brush it off or just say like, oh yeah, well, da-da-da-da. Like, if they are bringing it up to you and they are telling you like, yo, you have really changed, like, and I always go back to the fitness example because 1, I love fitness, and 2, I feel like people can understand it. But when I started really taking my fitness journey seriously and eating better and all that other stuff, people were telling me like, you look like you've lost a lot of weight. And of course, this is my body. I see this body every day. So I'm like, really? But just listening to that and then actually just looking back at videos of myself lifting weights and like a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, it's like, oh, I really do look very different. And so just don't brush it off when people tell you like how much you have grown. And some people, and I talked about this in my last episode, some people might tell you in another way and it might be a little shady and they might be like, well, you switched up on us or you changed on us. Reflect on that because they might be telling you that you've grown and you've changed, and they might be saying that they don't like that, but that doesn't mean that weighs anything. If anything, that is a good sign. Like, you are becoming the person that you need to be, and you might be outgrowing some people too. Number 7, gratitude is your anchor. You can't expect to have things in this life, physical or not, and not be grateful for what you have, right? You can't ask for more, whether that's more patience, more money, a better house, more emotional stability. You can't ask for those things if you are not grateful for what you have right now. You cannot ask for those things if you can't steward what you currently have. And so keeping in mind that gratitude will really get you far if you truly appreciate the things and are grateful for the things that you currently have. And even like just being grateful for the fact that it's like, I know I could easily respond to the situation like this, but I am grateful for the fact that I didn't respond to the situation this way, and that instead I chose to respond to it this way. Number 8, joy is part of the process, not just the result. I think a lot of people on their soft life journey, from the hood specifically, are looking for peace, they're looking for happiness, they're looking for joy, and they think that they're only going to get that when they finally reach the end goal of the house and the cars and the money and a dream family and a dream marriage and whatever. But it's like, it's not just going to be at the end. Like, I find joy in going to work. I most of the days. I find joy in going to church. I find joy in hanging out with people. I find joy in the fact that I can see how much I've grown as a person. And this is all along the process. I'm not at my end goal. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not the person that I want to be fully, but I'm also very proud of who I am now. And just understand that, like, if you're expecting to only feel joy and happiness at your end result, you got to go back to the drawing board, and you really got to understand and think about why you think that that's the case, number one. And number two, how can you start experiencing joy right now? Because a lot of people will be like, well, I'm gonna work hard now and then I'm gonna enjoy it later, or I'm gonna work hard now and I'm gonna sleep when I'm dead. But like, sleep is part of the process. Joy is part of the process. So don't wait until you reach X, Y, and Z goal or X, Y, and Z date to now start experiencing joy. Because one, you don't know how long you're on this planet for. And number two, you cannot get to your final destination, quote unquote, without being grateful and joyful and appreciative of the things that you currently have. Number 9, you can be healing and still feel messy. Here's the thing about it, right? I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not going to be perfect, but I also know that I don't feel like the person that I want to be, and I still feel all over the place, and I still feel like I'm just trying to figure out my life, and I still feel like, how do I get on a mic every week and tell people or give people advice when I'm still trying to figure out my own life? But in all honesty, like, your life and your soft life is going to still feel a little messy because you're just trying to put the pieces together. This is your first time living life. You may not have a foundation, you may not have an example, you may not have a role model, and so it might feel a little all over the place, and that is okay. But just understanding that, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be this pretty picture. It doesn't have to be organized. It is just going to take you some time, and just give yourself grace. Give yourself grace for the fact that it might feel like your life is all over the place. But just think about it like this. Like, if I had a stack of papers right in front of me, and they, like, let's consider that my past, right? That stack of papers that's right in front of me, and I go and throw it in the air and just say, you know what, I'm letting go of this. And then I start to pick up those pieces of paper one by one, and some of them might be organized, but some of them I'm just trying to, like, push together and just pick them up off the floor as quickly as possible. And I might have to go back and reorganize them, and that is okay. And that's what you are doing with your life. You have said, I don't like this. You threw it up in the air, and now it's all over the place. And now you're trying to clean it up and rearrange it and reorganize it, and you don't know where to start. And so it's okay. Life is going to be messy. Life is never going to be perfect. But just understand, like, a soft life isn't what it looks like. It's more so how it feels to you. Everybody's soft life, everybody's dream life, everybody's goals looks different. But what does a soft life look like to you? Number 10. It's okay to not know exactly what soft looks like yet. You may think that a soft life looks a very specific way. Maybe you're married, maybe you have kids, maybe you live in a specific state, in a specific house, and you drive a specific car, and you work a specific job, but life changes, life be life, and that might change for you. And you may decide that you don't want to get married. You may decide that you don't want to have kids. You may decide that you want to have a career change, whatever the case is. It is okay to not understand what that looks like for you right now. But as long as you know that you are working towards something and you have an idea of what that foundational or what that outline looks like, that's fine. But to think that you're going to have this specific detail-oriented version of what a soft life looks like and just go straight for that, like, that's unrealistic. Things change, people grow, circumstances make you change your mind, and that's fine. And I think the other thing about it too is just, like, understanding that a soft life, like I mentioned, does not look a certain way based off of your materials. A soft life for me, and my definition, is internal. How do you feel? How do you operate? How do you express your emotions? What does your mental health look like? How do you accept and receive love? Like, those are the things that you cannot typically see or purchase with money. You cannot purchase those things with money. So don't think that a soft life is tied to money. Number 11, being softer doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that you're wise. This ties into one of the other ones, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But just understanding that, like, with softness comes wisdom too. And just understanding, like, you know how you could respond, you know how you should respond, and you make a wise decision and you act on it too, right? Wisdom isn't just knowing something. It is also applying it. So I could know that I should respond this way, but I still chose to crash out. But wisdom is saying that I know I could respond this way, and I'm going to go ahead and respond this way instead and just be like, whatever, and be unbothered and operating in that. And the last one, keep going, especially when it's quiet. There are going to be moments where it's just like, you feel like you've hit a wall. You feel like you just are stagnant, and it doesn't really feel like you're moving as much. Keep going, because you're not going to move at all if you just stop right there. It may feel like there's not a lot happening. It may feel like there's not a lot going on, but you keep going anyways, because you never know at what point in your life you're going to hit your soft life and feel like you've reached the goal that you wanted in terms of how you feel and what that soft life looks like to you on the inside. So just keep going. Don't give up. Don't quit just because things look like they're not moving anymore, and just say, well, you know what, I'm content here, so that's where I'm going to be. You just never know what it could look like. And if you just give up, you're pretty much saying you're okay with never finding out, and you're going to just stay where you are. And if that's your choice, then that's your choice. But I would advise you to keep going. All right, y'all, I have 3 shadow work prompts for you to really think about how much you've changed, and just for you to reflect on this journey that you're on so that you can make the right choices for what steps you should take next. And the first one is, what part of me is afraid to soften, and what do I fear might happen if I let go of control? Shadow work prompt number 2, what habits or thought patterns keep pulling me back into survival mode, and where did I learn them? Number 3, what small signs of growth have I overlooked because I was focused on the end goal? All right, y'all, we're at the point where we've reached our affirmation for this week. And the affirmation for this week is, I trust the version of me that I am becoming. That version is worth the wait. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. So, I trust the version of me I am becoming. That version is worth the wait. I trust the version of me that I am becoming. That version is worth the wait. I trust the version of me that I am becoming. That version of me is worth the wait. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you for this week's episode. Let me know what your thoughts are for this week's episode. Just keep in mind 2 things. 1, a soft life isn't just about what you own or what you can obtain through money, but more so specifically who you are as a person. How do you operate in situations? What kind of mental health do you have? The things that you cannot see. And the second thing is that this takes time. Like, it took me 3 years to be able to get to where I'm at now. And I will say that a lot of my growth was accelerated in the year that I moved to DC and that I've been living here. But it still takes time. It's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in 3 weeks. You really just have to give yourself the time. You have to be patient with yourself. You need to give yourself grace as you go about this journey. But that is all I have for you this week. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on TikTok and IG, both at the HSL Pod. I'm about to start doing some teacher content on my personal page, so if you want to follow that, that's at Sabrina, SABRINAA.LIZET, both on TikTok and IG. And I'm about to get off of here so that I can go edit this very quickly, and I need a sweet treat. So I'm going to see y'all in the next one. Bye.